As kids, our days revolved around school and, if we were lucky, playing at a nearby park in the evening. My father, a government employee, often transferred to different towns, not all of which had parks. So, movies were our main pastime. My dad never let us see new movies in the first couple of weeks, as they were too crowded. We'd go only after the initial rush, and it would frustrate me. When I asked, why can't we go earlier, he'd say, better to go later when it's not so crowded. I'd counter, but what if the movie stops showing, and he'd reply, a movie that doesn't run long isn't worth watching. He had a lawyer's way with words, always leaving me speechless. When I was about 7 or 8, we lived in Rajmundry near a park in Danavipata. Next door was the house of Sri Krovati Lingaraju, whose granddaughter Amalu was in my class. She saw me as a little kid, so she often played with my elder sister instead. Amalu was crazy about movies. Once, when her mother refused to give her movie money, she sold old newspapers to buy tickets and took my sister and me along. At the theater, the manager recognized Amalu and let us in for free. Her grandfather was a freedom fighter, so everyone in town knew her family. We watched happily until intermission, but then Amalu had a bright idea. Let's sit closer to the screen, she said, pulling my sister and me along. The movie restarted, and the sounds and big images were overwhelming. Suddenly, I was terrified and started crying loudly. My sister got up, scolded Amalu, and took us both back home. She told Amalu, if you keep doing things like this, I'll never go to the movies with you again. With my dad's frequent transfers, we lived in many towns, and movies became our main source of entertainment. When we lived in Nidadavalu, the only theater there was Veerbhadra Talkies, which showed a new movie every week. If the movie was a hit, it stayed for 2 weeks. Saturday and Sunday matinees were reserved for Hindi films, and my sisters and I would watch nearly every show, even on Sundays. Once, we went to see the Telugu movie Brahmachari. In it, the heroine, Jayalalitha, brings a child to the hero Nageshwar Rao's house, claiming he is the heir of the family. To prove he's not his child, the hero orders a blood test. Just as actor Ravi Kondalarayo starts reading the results, the power goes out. We waited, but when it didn't come back, we headed home. Every time we tried to watch that part on later visits, the power would cut out again, forcing us to return home. On the very last day of the movie, after getting a heads up from the manager, we finally watched the whole scene. Thinking back on it now always brings a smile. During summers, there were 2 touring talkies in Nidadavalu. They'd play movie songs from 5 p.m. that echoed throughout the village, but the movies only began after dark, no set schedule, just any time after 7 p.m. The screen was stretched between 2 poles, with 3 seating classes, floor seating, benches, and chairs. Between the 2 poles were the best seats, which were reserved for us if we notified them beforehand, with a rope tied around them to keep others out. The rest of the seats often had blocked views because of the poles, but it didn't matter. The crowd's cheers, shouts, and whistles filled the air. Touring talkies had only 1 projector, meaning 3 or 4 intervals per movie. If the film had lots of songs and dances, we'd go back to watch it multiple times, then reenact scenes at home. We must have watched Amara Shilpi Jakhana at least 10 times there. The talkie was on the village outskirts, so a pleasant breeze would drift through. We'd eat dinner at 6:30 or 7 p.m. and head to the talkie, where we'd sit back and relax. Those were truly joyful days. Now, remembering all this, I can't help but smile at how wonderful our childhood was.